We are live before I start, so it doesn't clip anything off. Okay, I'm live here, and I'm I'm live both. Okay, hey, howdy, hey, friends and neighbors. Scott here, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Equisetum hyemale, that is a species of horsetail, and how to use it and all that. We're going to have a lot of videos coming up on making herbal medicine, and I'm also going to have a really big one on the a bunch of the edible and medicinal plants that are available in summer, since it is summer. But that one's going to take a while to put together because it's going to be a chonk of a video. But let me grab these. I finally have grown enough Equisetum hyemale. This is just one of my dehydrator trays. Enough of it to use pretty consistently. This is a really handy plant. So horsetails are they're vascular, non-seed bearing plants related to ferns, kind of in that same general area. And there's this guy here. Now there's several species, and you can use a few of them. The Equisetum arvens is probably the most well-known, most often sold and cultivated. But I like Equisetum hyemale better. The people at the Grow Network do. Doug Simons, he's a herbalist that he really likes this stuff too. It's also called scouring rush. Now it's not a rush. It looks like a rush physically. They'll have these single erect long stems, so they're very rush-like, but they're not really the same plant. It's called snake grass because of this little pattern, or what is it? Banded horsetail, I think. So there's several names, and common names overlap between species, so you got to be careful. But you can find this stuff sometimes at plant nurseries, and that's where I got mine. And they're sometimes under different common names, and sometimes they're listed under different scientific names, which really can be trouble. So I'll show you how to identify it, and we'll talk about why you would care. But Equisetum hyemale, this rush, is what should we? Let's start with just identification and where it grows, I guess. So it grows in temperate regions. It's spread around. It's in Australia. It's in South Africa, but I think it's mostly a north hemisphere plant, and it prefers moist soils like the side of a river. A river bank. That's the word for that, or under a shade tree. What I've found is I've spread this around, and it's really easy to spread around. What I've found is that it likes basically any place that I can get an elderberry to grow, I can get this to grow. So it likes the moist ground, but I've had it just out in the open with no special care, and it's still going. Super easy to propagate too. They're a spore-making plant. Technically, every plant makes spores, but they're a spore-making plant. But really, where you're going to get to propagate is from the roots. It's really easy to dig one up by the roots and move it somewhere. Or what you'll find is they'll make these underground stems that move along and then boop, boop, pop up everywhere. So if you do plant it somewhere, make sure it's somewhere that you want it to be forever, because it might be. It is not immune to mowing. You can mow it down and get rid of it. Sadly, we have found that out because I was trying to sneak some somewhere and my wife mowed it. For identification, they typically have an unbranched stem, and sometimes you will hear that they always have an unbranched stem, but that's not really true. I think this more often happens when they're getting ready to reproduce and they're going to make their little cones, but they can branch, just they usually don't. And this band right here, this is a real key to the identification. Most of the photosynthesis happens in the stem, but it does have leaves. This little sheath thing is the leaf, and it'll have this light, dark, light pattern, and that's the way you can identify this apart from the other Equisetums, the other horsetails. Okay, what in the world do you want to use it for? I hope we've talked about it. Well, this species of horsetail especially has a fairly high percentage of absorbable, that is bioavailable silica. Silica comes from like silicone, like the elemental silicone, and typically you can't use an absorbed silica. I mean, the sand on the beach is basically silica, but the water coming in, it doesn't absorb it and dissolve it into a nice quartz tea. Quartz stone is basically silica. But chemistry is a funny thing, and plants, these horsetails, can pull up silica and turn it into a bioavailable form, one that we can use. Especially the younger growing parts have the highest percentage, but you can use any above ground part. And what the silica does is it acts kind of as this like binding and armor type of thing. It toughens up your body. It's good for like your connective tissue, your tendons and ligaments, for strengthening them. It's really good for teeth too, for strengthening the dentin and the enamel, and making sure the teeth hold in your sockets really well. And it's good for like fingernails, for hair. I mean, I don't have a lot of hair, but the hair that I have, it makes it tougher in your skin. So it's overall, it just kind of increases your body's armor and durability. It increases your body's durability rating. So the older I get, the more I care about my body's durability rating too, right? And the way that you use it, now you can just eat the fresh plant. You would like chew it up and get the juices out, and you can chew and chew and chew until you feel like you can swallow the pulp. But better, just take it and dry it and powder it. And one of the potential dangers of this plant is that the powder, it has a lot of silica and it's really fine. If you breathe it in, it can harm your lungs. So when you powder it in a blender or an herb grinder, you want to wear a mask to protect yourself from breathing it in. Now, as it just so happens, at this particular time in history, everybody seems to have masks, so that's probably not going to be a problem. And some people like to use the powder in like teas or even in tinctures. I personally don't use it that way. Now, some people claim to have good results, and that may be due more to an energetics kind of a thing. In the same way that people use homeopathy. And, I grew up and went through the schooling system and have a very scientifically minded origin of where I come from in herbal stuff and in just life in general. Now, I've expanded and learned more things, but I'm just going to let you know that's the origin. That's where I start from. And so I understand that homeopathy shouldn't work, from a scientific point of view. But it still works. It doesn't work for everybody. Some people respond to it better than others. But yeah, it still works somehow. So maybe with the tinctures and the teas, you get sort of an energetic response like that. But if we're talking just the actual physical compounds, I think your best shot is to powder it and then put the powder in, just put it in water and swallow it down, get it physically, so you have the most silica that you can. Because even though it's an absorbable form of silica, it's not your body's still not really good at absorbing it. So you want to give it the best chance that you can. How much would you take? Say like a big teaspoon a day. Kids, maybe half. And I wouldn't start with that much either, because it can cause an upset stomach if your body is not accustomed to that amount of silica. I mean, it shouldn't do anything bad to you. It's not comfortable. It's just not any fun. So start with some less and gradually increase, so you don't shock yourself with it. And then I wouldn't take it every day, not because it's poisonous, but just because it gives your body a chance to kind of have a break from it. And then when you reintroduce it, your body's like, oh yeah, this stuff. Yeah, I was craving this again. So it's probably better to do it in spurts, like 5 to 7 or maybe 5 to 10 days, and then take a few days off. And then it'll revamp and really get back in. What else should we talk about? There is a chemical in the fresh horsetail called thiominase, I think, that it can deplete the thiamine levels, which is a B vitamin from your body. But really, that's not really a big threat. If you eat a bunch of the fresh plant over a long period of time, sure, and you may want to increase more B vitamin type foods, but you got to eat a lot of it. And if you dry it or heat it, it's not a problem anyway, because it neutralizes the thiominase. Okay, another potential caution with these is these are a bioaccumulator plant of toxins in the environment. So you don't want to plant it or harvest it from someplace that is contaminated or toxic, because it has a tendency to pull that out of the ground, and then you would put that into your body, and that we don't want that. That's not good. Although you can use it to gradually clean up an area. So if you have a contaminated site, you can plant horsetail or other plants. Cattails are good about that too, and they can pull up the contaminated chemicals. Then you can cut them down and take them to a disposal site, and then gradually over several cycles of that, you can clean an area back up. So if you had an area in your yard that you wanted to grow something in, but it, maybe they used to change trucks oil over there, or they used to pour it out, and you really want to clean that up. You don't want to grow fruit trees in that. That's a strategy. Now, a lot of animals like to eat horsetail. Horses, for example. In fact, Equisetum, the equi part, equus means horse. There is some talk about maybe Equisetum, maybe horsetail could be toxic to horses in larger quantities. And right up front, I'm really not an animal herbalist. I mean, I know a little bit, but I don't really deal with animals. So when I'm speaking about animals, I'm definitely speaking more from book knowledge than I am from any experience knowledge. But in my admittedly, kind of separated opinion, I think that most of the time it's not dangerous for horses. From what I've read, I think it's if that's all they have to eat, and so they eat it because they have to, it can be a problem. But if they just have some out of the pasture and they can go to it when they want to, when they instinctually know they need it, I don't think it's a problem. It does have some mineral nutrition too. What else do we need to say about the horsetail? You see, I had some notes here. Pardon me just a moment. Yeah, powdering. You can use it topically too as a poultice. It can help stop blood flow, and it's vulnerary. Oh, you can use it in your gardens. Now, I haven't tried to do that yet, because I've been trying to get enough for me to use. But you can make like a compost tea or an infusion or a decoction of this stuff, and then pour it around the plants. I mean, let it cool off, and then pour it around the plants. And it has a little bit of nicotine, which can help repel some of the pests. So that's a good one. Here's a question. Can you use it as a tooth powder? And yes, you can. I wouldn't use it every day, because the silica levels, if you do it every day and you really brush hard, you might actually wear down the enamel, which is kind of ironic because the silica is the stuff you want to strengthen your teeth. But that's a possibility. But yes, you can use it as a tooth powder. And on an energetics level, I think that's a good idea to do, at least from time to time, to kind of tell your body, this is where I want this. Hey, teeth, this is the thing you're going to be getting. And I know that doesn't make sense from a very Western trained scientific point of view, but on an energetics level, it makes sense. Okay, we've identified it. Talked about where it grows. If you're far enough south, it'll be evergreen. If you go up north, it'll be deciduous, and it'll come back. And if you are far enough north where it's deciduous, then you might as well just harvest it each fall every time it comes back, because that part's going to die back anyway. You can harvest it any time of year. I think that's the main stuff. If you live near me and you want some of this and you can't find it, because sometimes it is hard to find if you want this species, I've got plenty of it now, and you can just come by, or we can meet up. Of course, not everybody in the group lives near me, and I'm sorry. If you really, really need it, maybe we can work out some kind of mailing, thing. But the Grow Network sells this stuff from time to time. They'll sell you the plants. I don't know how often they do that, but that's another option too. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. It's been kind of rambly. I really wanted to put something out, because I've been super busy with this. I'm doing a big writing project with the Grow Network. I'm helping Marjorie with something, and it's going to be cool. And maybe as it gets a little closer, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I might drop some acceptable hints, to kind of build the hype, because there's a cool thing coming. It's going to be a little bit, but it's a cool thing coming. I'm working on this botany certification for the Grow Network, and that takes a lot of time. I just finished recording the audio for a video on alternation of generation and polyploidy. We talked about the grass family too. I may drop some tidbits about that. That might be interesting. Just to give sort of a bullet points of some of the main things that this botany certification is going on. That way it won't spoil the whole thing, but I can share some of the information with you. So yeah, I've had a lot going on, but I really wanted to drop something in here. I saw we've had a lot of new members lately. So if you're new, hey, welcome to the group. Glad to have you here. Drop a comment, say hi. Yeah, okay. I'm getting rambly, so I'm going to cut off here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will try to keep posting just some interesting things. Maybe, unfortunately, some more rambly videos if I don't have time to do editing because of the other projects. But we're going to keep going, and we're going to do stuff, and we're going to have a great time. So yeah, I'll see you in another video. Everybody sleep tight, all right? Bye. So this should be goodbye to Facebook. And this should be goodbye to YouTube. Hey, YouTube. See you later.